Welcome to the Morningstar Manager Checkup. I'm Holly. Black. With me in the studio is John Miller. He's Head of Fund Research at Morningstar. Hello.
Hi, Holly.
You're going to tell us about a few funds you've been looking at over the past few weeks. Where would you like to start?
That's correct. So let's start with Latin America. So a fund we have under Analyst coverage, so we go and meet the managers and assess them through our pillars, is JPM Latin America. So we rate this fund as bronze, so we've got a positive view on it. And that's all centred around people, the process. We've also got positive views there. The manager has been there around 15 years or so he's got a long tenure in Latin America, backed up by a colleague, Sophie Bosch de Hood. They work well together, as well as a team of analysts dedicated to the region, plus the wider emerging market team we like at JPM, so quite a few things coming together that we like on the people side there.
But so for an investor who's interested in emerging markets, focusing specifically on Latin America has been a bit of a dicey bet over the past few years.
It's probably had more downs than ups, let's say. We're not making asset allocation calls. We try and say what we like in certain areas following our research approach. There, the process is looking into small caps a little bit. I don't want to stress that they're overly going into small caps, but in a market that's 2/3 Brazil, about 25% Mexico, managers have to take a bit of risk away from the benchmark to try and outperform. And with their quality growth approach, looking for a few ideas off benchmark that have tended to work, finding some higher quality growth areas, we think that comes together to give an overall positive view, which is why we have a bronze rating on JPM Latin America.
Super. And you've been downgrading funds recently as well.
Yeah, so let's pick out one on that side, T.Rowe Price Global Technology. We want to stress there that it's a manager change that's reshaped our view. So the manager that we liked had been there quite a while, had helped us create an overall positive view, taking us to silver on the strategy. That manager departing and someone taking over has actually ended up moving it to neutral.
Okay. But it's quite weird to hear you're downgrading a fund in an area, technology, that's done so well and been so popular.
Well, technology, yes, has had its much more ups than Brazil, let's say, from before. But again, we're not making calls of what might happen in a certain area in the future. It's all about the strategy as a whole. So there, T.Rowe Price, we've usually seen them be quite good at succession planning, telling us who might be coming up through the ranks. In this case, Alan too, he's part of the team, been there 5 years at the group. He's based out in San Francisco, so quite near Silicon Valley. His work beforehand, before taking on the portfolio manager role, was centered on knowing quite well around 30% of the fund. So we've got to reassess and say, well, he's still got to take full coverage, knowing more areas than he's been used to. Also, how is the approach going to be executed? The manager before was actually quite high turnover, trimming areas of the market that had rapidly risen, and also adding to areas where valuation opportunities were in place. So there's a lot more moving parts from being an analyst to being a portfolio manager, and that really has centred around the reason why neutral we feel is a fair view at the moment on that strategy.
Okay. And what's the last fund we're looking at? The
final one is Montanaro European Smaller Companies Investment Trust. So although it's called European, this is Europe ex-UK, so it's smaller companies outside the UK and the European region. Now this house is run by Charles Montanaro, but the manager here is George Cook. So Charles passed on the reins to George Cook quite recently, although I would like to add that Charles Montanaro is still a key part of the business, the approach and the investment committee as well. So he's got ideas coming in, but really it's now George Cook's portfolio, but there is a certain amount of continuity there as well.
And you're maintaining your rating on that one?
Yes, we're maintaining it at bronze. There was a few wobbles there, we'd say, a couple of years ago where there was a bit of turnover in the team, but we feel they've overcome that. So with George Cook taking the reins, there's still a heavy emphasis on research at Montanaro. So about a team of 10 analysts kicking the tyres, going around to see companies around Europe, and we like the team approach there on bringing ideas forward to a list of where the investment committee want to employ them. Quality growth as well, so you won't see deep cyclical companies coming in here, so it tends to protect quite well on the downside, which we saw in spades last year actually, where the fund performed particularly well. So we think there's some good things coming together there after a bit of change going on internally, not drastic change, but all in all we feel bronze, we're positive, and that we feel is the right view for where we are now.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us.